Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now honestly, what I'm most excited about that's coming in EVE Online is the Shadow of the Serpent event, where CCP is actually going to try and make a bit of a progression system in the things you can do to help out with this event. So they definitely look to basically expand the things you can do without joining the player created politics, which should be interesting for the story, and I think is a good approach to try and get new players to stay with the game, to give them things to do outside of waiting for their skills or just mining or grinding some ISK until they feel comfortable basically starting to lose ships. So I think it's an interesting approach. I'm not sure if it is going to work, but as long as they respect the rules of the sandbox and allow people to interfere with each other, allow for full interaction, I think that this could be interesting and it could be pretty good as well. So I look forward to the new events coming, the Serpentis events, and I look forward to seeing what I can actually manage there. We are here for the market, of course, and as always I'll start out with plex, which is going to be 120 pretty much. You can see that plex have gone up just a little bit, 923 million pretty much for the sellers, 890 million for the buyers, so still a decent margin there, 33 million almost. That's definitely pretty large, and if you look at the chart right here, we are breaking 900 million pretty easily on the uptrend, but it is pretty slow. So I think that we could have a double effect here. Of course, this little dip down to 850 million was due to a plex sale. Now we're going back up now that that is over, but it's pretty timid increase in price, I think, because the summer is coming, and so activity is still not that high throughout the summers. That just tends to be the case in EVE Online. So I think that just puts a bit of a hold on demand for plex, and that means that the price is not rising that quickly. Personally, I see this as a good opportunity to still pick up plex like below 950 million or below a billion, to try and diversify your plex purchases, which is what I'm doing at the moment. And I think that if they are successful with the new PvE aspects, and if after the summer they can then come out with interesting new structures, it could be good for the game, and we could actually get a serious increase in price towards the winter. And I hope that dog is not going to bark for too long. But yeah, plex is up a little bit, but not too much. Next up here is the pilot training certificate, doing something pretty similar here, going up towards 950 million, but also slowing down at the very end. So the sellers are at 934 million and the buyers are at 899 million. So despite the chart looking like it's not as high as plex's, the actual sales are higher, but the buyers are only 10 million higher. So is it 10 million, 10 million? Yeah, exactly. Basically, when it comes to the selling themselves, the multiple pilot training certificates are already 10 million higher than plex's, but the chart has yet to catch up to that. Here is the pilot's body resculpt certificate, clearly going up as well, pretty sharply in fact, from 210 million, currently selling for 255 million. The buyers are at 210 million. Honestly, do we see an increase in volume? Maybe a little bit here, but nothing that drastically. But this almost looks like someone either purchased everything below 255 million or something like that, or even 260 million. Considering that we've got a couple of them coming in here, and then maybe try to put them back up at a higher price, or some market manipulation. This is pretty damn sharp increase here. I don't see any real reason why this should happen. So I think that this could be a bit of a manipulation attempt, which honestly the body resculpt market can be manipulated because it is pretty damn small. So what probably can't be manipulated that easily is the skill extractor market, and that one is going back up a little bit, also breaking 20-day moving average, basically doing the same thing as plex's have been doing. So currently they are selling for 212 million ISK, the buyers are at 206.4 million ISK, but you can see the numbers here, 56, 68, 35. The availability of these is just astronomical, and so this is a market that is not easily manipulated by just a few powerful individuals, just by the sheer number of goods that are being traded here. You can also see that the volumes are quite substantial. I mean, we're probably talking 7,000 to 8,000 units per day being traded. Let's see what the impact is on the skill injectors. That one is going up in price quite substantially as well. And in fact, during the little dip from plexus, which happened probably right here, skill injectors have been able to hold on quite nicely, staying above 600 million. So bottom 580 currently selling for 640 million, and the buyers are at 608 million ISK. This is, in my opinion, pretty damn interesting, because we have a pretty volatile chart here in skill injectors. This could be where the market is trying to position itself on the future of EVE Online, just in the same way that you would always buy plexus. Maybe skill injectors can actually become the thing. Why would this be? I think because these will remain very useful as well, just in the same way that plexus are useful, but also they are more affordable, right? 600 million is something completely different, although it's not that much less than 900 million, but 1.2 billion for a plex, which we had last winter, is definitely something that's much harder to attain. Takes a lot more time to attain that than 640 million or even 580 million on the cheapest situation for skill injectors we've seen so far. So this is something I think that even players that don't have a huge wallet can actually start investing in, because whether they want to do it just to safeguard some of their value, or because they want to have skill injectors ready in case they all of a sudden want certain skill points, this is probably starting to become the go-to product in order to invest in, apparently. Personally, I still prefer plex, because 30 days game time I think feels like it's something that has a bit more value to me personally than the skill points you're getting from skill injectors. But apparently a lot of people don't agree with that and are going for the skill injectors. So pretty interesting situation here, clearly going up as well. Once the plex have started going up, or even earlier than plex going up, that's interesting. Definitely. Oh no, actually it's because skill injectors have not been out that long. That's why you're seeing this plexus starting to find a bottom. Let's see here, early May, maybe like at the end of the first half of May, and here are the skill injectors. Again, early May, first half of May, stopping, finding a bottom, and then starting to go up. So yeah, it is moving in tandem with plex, just not very easy to spot that, because of course skill injectors have only existed for less than 6 months. So okay, that's looking pretty alright. I honestly think that you still have opportunities throughout this summer to pick up some cheap plex, to pick up maybe also some cheap skill injectors, and that these could be good investments later on, aiming at like the winter, possibly a nice little bit of hype around what would it be then, the drilling platforms. And then of course returning players could actually increase demand enough to actually get you some profit. So that's probably my plan throughout the summer for the ISK that I'm making. Invest in these goods and hope for a good winter. Next up here we've got some minerals. That's going to be 830. Let's take a look at these. Unfortunately, you may already have seen from the ticker, it's not very good news. Here is titanium that tried to hold on to the 6.10 ISK price mark for quite a while, did really good defending 620 for a bit, but now we are clearly going down substantially in price, breaking 5.9 without too much effort, and we even have data points at 5.8. Currently, in fact, sellers are at 5.8, 579, buyers at 577. This is probably the smallest margin we've seen since the new taxes, which is pretty unusual, but I do think it shows that it's basically the sellers, the supply that's been dumping more and more titanium on the market, going lower and lower in price, and the buyers, well, they've been really happy being able to purchase titanium below 5.8 already, and so there's quite a bit of demand to still fill up at these prices, but there's very little reason to actually start putting up your titanium at 5.78 when you can sell it straight away for 5.77. So this is going to stop the descent in price around the 5.8 ISK price market, but it is a pretty serious correction here, especially in the last few weeks where titanium did try to hold on 6.26 ISK, stay above that, stay around the 6.10 mark, but that just wasn't defendable. And now, despite slightly higher volumes here, we are going down in price substantially. You can see though that during this high period in prices here, we also did have periods of much higher titanium purchases here. So probably just less demand. This could be because of the summertime, and as a result, prices of titanium are declining substantially. Next up here we've got pyrite. That's not good either. Oh my god, we actually are selling titanium for 5.8. We are selling pyrite for 8.98, so for 9 ISK. That's definitely a very small difference in price there. Output pyrite at an extremely low price here at the moment, clearly seen on the chart as well. 6-month low without any effort. I might even want to take the 1-year chart here. You can see this is a very low price for pyrite here at the moment. So if you're mining, I think you'll want to avoid the pyrite market. But yeah, sellers coming in below 9 ISK, buyers are at 8.76, so we're probably going to bottom out towards these larger buy orders. But maybe for a longer term investment, if you don't have that much ISK, then pyrite could be pretty decent. Quite surprising to still see 500 million units coming in at 8.99. This of course going to keep the price from going back up substantially all of a sudden. And the real surprising thing here to me is that we're still going down in price despite the higher volumes that you're seeing here a couple of days ago, around a week ago. Why is this so interesting? Of course, this should indicate higher demand and should stop the price from decreasing. But what this indicates to me is that probably these are some investors deciding that, well, 9 ISK is a pretty good price for pyrite. I'm actually going to put some ISK into that and see that as a bit of a longer term investment, which, seeing this chart, I think I may want to do as well a little bit if I'm looking to diversify my holdings. Then pyrite for the longer term, I think, could definitely be something to look into. Next up here we get the Mexalon chart. The outlier when it comes to the high-sec minerals, still holding above 70 ISK, which is a pretty damn good price for Mexalon. So 71.6 for the sellers, 68.12 for the buyers. They're still at 68, which is around here on the chart, which is definitely higher than what we've seen 4 months ago. Which is pretty interesting. Very sharp rise as well, increase in volume, but we're still seeing pretty high volume. So Mexalon is still the winner if you're mining for anything. If you're still trying to get some good ISK per hour on your high-sec mining, then I think Mexalon is what you should shoot for. But how long can it last with all the other high-sec minerals apparently under serious pressure? I don't know. Here is the isogen chart. Again, try to go back up above 100 ISK like a bit over a month ago, but the pressure was back on straight away, and we're now again heading towards 90 ISK for isogen, 92.06 for the sellers, 88.82 for the buyers. So it's not likely that we'll break 85 ISK or something like that on the downtrend, because the buyers are apparently supporting that price range, but it's the sellers, the supply keeps coming in here. You can also see very clearly that this entire front page is less than a day old, and so people keep dumping more isogen on the market, having to go lower and lower in price, closer and closer to the buy order prices, and this is why we're seeing this decline in price here. So Mexalon is the only high-sec mineral that's still holding on. All the other ones are under some serious pressure, and to me this pyrite chart looks pretty damn good if you want to purchase something to try and protect some value, because I cannot see pyrite go, let's say, lower than titanium, which it would pretty much have to do if it continues on this downtrend. So that's it for the high-sec ones. Let's take a look at Noxium next. Trying to hold on at 470 ISK, but this entire 6-month chart here is actually very low for Noxium. So this is definitely a difficult one. If you expect CCP to intervene at some point when it comes to the Noxium market, then maybe you can invest in that, but otherwise supply is just really high. You have some decent demand as well, but that is just because of the low price. So 470 for the sellers, 457 ISK for the buyers. Someone is coming in with 4.3 million units, so that should support the price at least a little bit. Daily volumes though, 50 million units pretty easily. Yeah, this is 100 million, yeah, 50 million units pretty easily. So this is traded a lot at the current price range. It just seems like this is what Noxium is worth at the moment, and historically this is extremely low, so maybe this is a bit of bias on my end as to why I would only be willing to risk a serious investment in Noxium if I expect CCP to actually step in on this market, but otherwise I think it's very difficult to actually make some money on this one, because the general story has been oversupply, and so it's still trying to find its price. It probably did so, but a lot of people I think consider this to be a very low price for Noxium. When it comes to Nullstick here, we've got Zytrine under pressure a little bit as well, breaking 1250. That's pretty interesting. So 1230 pretty much for the sellers, 1165 for the buyers. Supply, let's see here. Yeah, still 89 here, 89 here. That's a lot of supply coming in here, which is probably why Zytrine is under pressure here. Breaking 1250 without too much effort. We'll have to see if this has some legs or not. And here for Megasite, very similar story. Tried to hold on above 1450 for quite a little bit, but is heading for 1400 now. 1430 for the sellers, 1366 for the buyers, and supply wise, yeah, definitely again more than a full front page of new supply coming in here. That's going to put some pressure on the minerals. So that seems to be the general story here, especially for the Tech 1 minerals. A lot of them are under pressure, pretty high supply, and personally I think that lower activity throughout the summer could be why at the moment we are oversupplied, and why some of these prices are pretty damn low. A lot of them are under pressure, and only Mexalon is managing to hold on. Finally, we'll touch on Morphite. A lot of people do like it when I do that. Morphite was the big winner of the Citadel expansion, started out at below 10,000 ISK and then shot up to 20,000 ISK here, but now it is under pressure a little bit, back down to 15,000 ISK. So it basically doubled in price. It's already had to give back 50% of that price increase, but that's still quite okay if you look at your purchase possibilities 2-3 months ago. So the buyers, the sellers are pretty active as well, just like the other minerals. I mean, this is definitely like 2 new pages of Morphite coming in here. Considering how good the price was, I think a lot of people that had invested in Morphite decided to sell and are still deciding to sell at a profit. And this is why now the price is coming back down here with 2 full pages of new supply. But 15,000 ISK is still pretty damn good, of course, if you manage to purchase that at 10,000 ISK. And so Morphite is used in the Tech 2 market, so maybe we'll see an impact from this volatility on the Tech 2 ships. Who knows? So that's it for minerals. Let's take a look at some Tech 1 ships next. 1750. All right. Let's just go over the list here. Here's the Armageddon. Definitely did go down over 6 months, settling at around 195 million, but you can also see a decrease in volatility here on slightly better availability. Definitely 130 here is a pretty good buffer that's going to help the Armageddon settle a little bit. The battleships have been a pretty rough market because they're just not in the meta at the moment. A lot of people consider them, I think, too vulnerable to bombing runs, and probably also too vulnerable to the changed capital ships at the moment. Here is the Caracal then. 12 million is where it's settling, but again, finally we're seeing at least a month of decently stable prices, which I think is good for the Tech 1 market, because you want a pretty stable market here. In fact, 11.5 million is apparently the price, 11.5. So yeah, under pressure a little bit from the sellers here. 11.5 million starting to come in here, but yeah, after those 3 caracals, you're actually looking at 12.3 million for the sellers. Buyers are below 11 million, 10.7. So the caracal, I think, is also finding its price range. If you want to buy one straight off the market, you're probably looking at 12 million. If you are willing to wait, maybe put up a buy order. 11.5 million is going to be pretty easy to pick those up. So at least some stability. The Dominic's coming off of a slight slight from 195 to 215 million. It's an uptick, a bit of a double top here, pretty interesting. But as you can see, the industrialists have managed to supply the Dominics to bring the price back down to its average. So it's an increase in volume right here, that caused the price spike. Probably a nullsec alliance that did decide on a Dominic's fleet to be ready. Not sure if they're actually going to use it, but Dominic's with drones can of course still do something in nullsec, I think. And as a result, here we had this price spike, but you can also see that the industrial backbone of EVE Online is responding pretty damn quickly to these opportunities. And so just a few weeks later, we are back at 195 million on average, 202 million for the Dominics, for the sellers, 186 million for the buyers. So let's see if we can either become pretty stable at the current price range, or is the supply going to overshoot, and are we actually going to crash down below 190? Those are two possible scenarios, I think, from here on out. If we look at the Drake chart next, also coming off of, well, this isn't really volatility, honestly, 52 to 58 billion. This 57, in fact, is like less than 10%, so this is not too drastic, but also settling at 53 million here, apparently. Availability, a bit of lag on the market window here, but availability, yeah, definitely plenty of Drakes on the market, so we look set for a more stable period here. Next up, we've got the Mauler, again 11.5 to 12 million, settling quite nicely in this range as well, despite very low availability. At least some are starting to come in here, 20, 28, 13. That's pretty decent. Daily volumes, probably 50 on average. So we may use a few more Maulers on the market to actually have a better chance of more stable prices, but at the moment it's doing so despite lower volumes. Here next up we've got the Myrmidon, similar to the Dominics. We have this double spike up to 66 or 64 million. Average, I would put that at like 56 million, and we're right back there again after this volatility. Increased volumes, ooh, that's actually pretty damn drastic. This is strange. So average around 50. This is almost 200 purchased Myrmidons, currently selling for 60 million, which is right here. Yeah, something is happening. I think this is a little bit of manipulation, honestly. Because the buyers are at 52, the sellers are at 60.5 million. But this volume spike is quite unusual. I actually think that this is a speculative manipulation. Someone is attempting to make money on the Myrmidon market by basically buying everything that's available below a certain price and then putting them back up at a high price. So is it going to be successful? I'm not sure personally. I think that this tactic is quite risky because as I've said, especially in the Tech 1 market, the industrialists tend to spot these opportunities very quickly and just decrease the price on fresh supply, and then you may be holding the bag on those purchases. So pretty damn risky unless someone actually decided on some Myrmidon fleets here. This could end up being quite costly to someone. Next up here we've got the Oracle, slowly going up in price towards 90 million. That is pretty interesting. It's definitely a bit of a trend over the last 2 months here. So availability though is just not that high. There's not that many Oracles available. Last half of them have been brought in the last 24 hours. So I think basically this could be increased demand for some Oracles, and as a result here the price is also increasing, but at least this is not too spiky. This is not too unexpected here. It's not exactly a stable price. I would prefer to see them still at 80 million, but at least it's not like completely going crazy either. So yeah, Oracles, again, another battle cruiser. Is it possible that the meta is slowly shifting to some battle cruisers to counter maybe some of those probably not the interceptors, but maybe the heavy assault cruisers? Something like that is possible. Next up here we've got the Raven settling at 190 million. Availability definitely pretty damn good, so I think that the Raven could finally start to stabilize as well. Next up here we've got the Stabber. That's definitely an okay chart, right? Around 11 million is where we've been hovering, currently selling. Ooh, availability is not that high though, so be careful. If someone decides to buy 100 Stabbers here, everything below the 13.5 million mark, then you're ready to shoot up in price. But again, as I've said, this is pretty risky thing to do because industrialists can probably bring Stabbers in a matter of days in quite substantial numbers. Next up here we've got the Tornado. It did go up in price substantially to 88 million on higher volumes as well, so this definitely purchases, but then going back down to 74 million, which again is another battle cruiser. It's definitely something that can be used to snipe from far away, so this is pretty interesting. Now once again we are seeing a battle cruiser that did go up in price substantially. This opportunity was obviously spotted, and so now we're back down to 74 million on average, so the gap has been plugged swiftly once again, but yet another battle cruiser that has gone up in price like around a month ago. Next up here we've got the Typhoon settling at 185 million here. Availability decent, but considering for a battleship this could be alright. And then yeah, looking probably at a stable price next year. And then finally we've got the Vixor settling at 12.5 million. Is a little bit higher than average. I mean, we used to be definitely below 12 million, then some volatility, but also yeah, not that available. So I think the Vixor, slight opportunity for industrialists right now, but other than that, I'm seeing maybe a slight shift in the meta towards battle cruisers, because some of those have definitely been purchased. And if you'd have to look at the actual winners, probably drone ships. Drone ships seems to be doing pretty damn well here at the moment in general. But the Tech 1 markets, alright, some of them are definitely pretty low when it comes to availability, so they could be manipulated or just basically due to natural demand could be forced into a higher price range all of a sudden. But whenever it does happen, whenever we do see a spike, the industrial response is pretty swift, and it brings the price back down very quickly. So I would say don't panic if you see something like that. Just ride it out for a week and you can probably purchase back at an average price. Next up, Tech 2 markets 2640. Let's take a look at these. Unfortunately, as I've said, I'm not expecting good news here. Here is the Basilisk. I mean, this is just too stable at 200 million. Do you want to purchase that? I feel it's a pretty major gamble. I would prefer to see this chart go back down to 180 before I would say, okay, I probably want to purchase this. So no. Cerberus next here, dropping down to 200 million, but that's still too high in my book. And again, the stability, the lack of volatility in the prices here is pretty apparent. Next up here we've got the Claw, also under pressure here, going down below 20 million. So maybe slowly we are seeing purchase opportunities form, right? 18 million here for the buyers of a Claw. That's actually starting to be pretty decent. 17.8 after filling 4 more. So 17.8 is here on the chart. Over the 6 months this could be quite okay, so interesting. Definitely 2 of them slightly under pressure. I mean, the decrease in price is slower than what I would like to see, but maybe some buy opportunities are slowly forming. The Guardian, this was the one winner. We also did spot this buy opportunity like almost 2 months ago when the price broke 130 million. The buy orders then would have been a really good deal, and you can now see taking off the 200 million current sellers, 208 million ISK. So if you manage to purchase in this range, then of course that was a pretty good idea. But considering the rest of the 6-month chart, this was an obvious 6-month low, an obvious buy opportunity as well for the Guardian. Most of the other ones just aren't there yet. Here is the Hound, also slightly under pressure, heading towards 20 million, so still too early in my books. But where are the buyers at? 18.9 million, so they are trying to bring the price down here. Once the buyers are successful in lowering the price enough, maybe we'll finally spot some opportunities. The question is volatility still in the cards for the Tech 2 market with the tax changes? Here is the Ishtar, hovering at 215. So obviously if you can sell these then, or produce these, then you're probably making pretty good money, but for the investors that are looking to buy, this is not the time. Next up here we've got the Manticore, staying above 24 million ISK. I definitely don't like this for a purchase. I mean, below 22, close to 20 is probably where I would want to buy my Manticores. The buyers are at 23 million. No, that's not something I find interesting. Here is the Nemesis, again under pressure a little bit, heading for 20 million. The buyers have gone down to 18.8 million, so the pressure is obvious here. Will we see another buy opportunity form? We'll have to keep an eye on that. The Oneros though is the one picture that I don't like to see when it comes to finding trade opportunities in the Tech 2 market. So we did go to a low point at 140 million, probably spotted that as well. You can see the increased volume, so the market recognized that as a very likely bottom. What I don't like is that we now have a constant increase in price over 2 months towards 160 million. Is this a good trade? Sure, this is a good trade, but it's not volatile enough in my book. This is not something that you can do short term anymore. This is definitely a longer term investment. You have to wait for your top to form. You have to wait for the right time to sell. On something like this, right? If you've purchased at 145 and then you see a spike up to 175 or to 180, you know that this is the time to sell. Here it's a lot trickier to actually spot that. So this is why I'm actually happy that the Guardian is doing this, but the Oneros here is a little bit too slow in my book. Next up here we get the Purifier chart if it wants to load, settling at 24 million. It's definitely not something I would want to purchase. Next up here we get the Raptor, just picture perfect for a show of stability here below 25 million. So you know, do you want to buy here? Definitely not. You need this price to drop towards 20 million on the chart at least. Do you want to sell here? Definitely not either. So this is much more stable market. In fact, this is just crazy. 22.2 million for the sellers, 23.4 million for the buyers. That's like an extremely small margin for a Tech 2 good that has all of these taxes sitting behind it. So that's definitely pretty damn crazy. And next up here we get the Scimitar. This again is not what I like to see, right? We did go as low as 140. I prefer it to go even lower, but all right, you may have pulled the trigger on the purchases here, but then more than a month to get to 170, which is all right, but I mean, just look at how slowly it is, and now again we have a slower decline here once again. So it's just tricky. The volatility seems to be gone from the Tech 2 market, except for the Guardian here, the one exception. So I'm still hesitant to say that the Tech 2 market will be able to remain an active trading market here. The only good news that I'm actually spotting is the Guardian and watching the Cerberus be under pressure, the Claw be under pressure, the Hound be under pressure. A lot of them are clearly oversupplied, so if they can slowly go back to a real low price on the buy orders, if they can create buy opportunities, then maybe we can see volatility again, but I wouldn't bet on it personally. Next up, Tech 3, 3230. All right, let's go over these. Unfortunately, I don't expect a change in story here. Tech 3 market has been oversupplied for a few months now. You can clearly see the decrease in price over 6 months, and 40 million for confessors, sellers 40.7, buyers 38 million, and despite that, almost a full front page of new confessors coming in, including 12, 29, 10 and 26 as the latest sell orders. That is definitely keeping the pressure on here. The oversupply situation is obvious. The Hecate next tried to crawl out of a hole, but keep in mind this is below 40 million, so I think a lot of people did spot that as probably a decent opportunity to pick up some really cheap Hecates below 40 million, but hesitating now at 45 million. So current sellers 44.4.5 pretty much, buyers at 41 million, so 3 million gap. And look at the response, full front page of new Hecates, 20, 36, 22, and they keep trickling in here. So this is obviously going to put the pressure back on the Hecate market. Next up here we get the Jackdaw, also going towards 40 million, and despite that, again, we still have 24 of them coming in here, 40.7 for the sellers, 38.7 for the buyers. So people are probably going to try to pick these up at 39 million for the longer term. Honestly, if you can buy these below 40 million, then for longer term, this is probably pretty damn good. I personally have already made a move for like $500 million in confessors. And then finally, we also have this Vepel, but again, similar story. Try to go very close to 40 million, a bit of a bump up here, but not breaking 45 million. And this is where half a front page of supply comes in, including 46, 135 and 38 Vepels. This is just picture a perfect picture for oversupply. It's just a situation, especially in the tactical destroyers at the moment. When it comes to the cruisers, they are settling at 140 here for the Legion. Supply is not as drastic, right? We're not seeing 30, 40, more than 100, but we're still seeing 10, 7, 9 here coming in the last 24 hours despite very low Legion prices. Next up here we get the Loki, clearly under pressure, heading for 130 million here. There's just no demand, very obviously, and despite that, look at that, almost a full page of new Lokis coming in. Sure, it's 8, it's 5, it's 2, but it's still just too much for the market, right? Lokis currently, you can buy them straight off the market below 136 million. If we take a 1-year chart here, and you can show some patience, and you can sell them, find opportunities to sell at 180, 200 million, something like that is not impossible. But of course, keep in mind, there may need to be something drastic happening in wormhole space or to the Tech 3 ships to actually happen. But yeah, this is obviously a 1-year low right here for the Loki at the moment. Next up we've got the Proteus, very similar situation, actually broke 140 and now is trying to come back up. So this is probably people that are purchasing these below 140 million. 148 for the sellers, but 130 million for the buyers, and they're clearly trying to put the pressure back on. Is it working? Supply here 12, well, half a front page, so maybe it's a bit delayed. Well, no, actually it starts right here. So it's not that many Protei that are coming to the market in the last 24 hours, but it is obviously something that I think producers will start to make a move on, considering that they can sell these for 148 million, which is quite a bit lower than the rest. And here is the Tengu, again, clearly 6 months low pressure is right here, and we are currently selling for 145 million. And despite these low prices, you can still see almost a full front page of new Tengus coming to the market here, keeping the pressure on the price. So Tech 3 is I think oversupplied in general. If you want to divest some ISK into something that is very long term, because I've seen this situation last for more than a year when it was only the cruisers, then this could be a good purchase. But again, keep in mind that you may want to have a very long horizon for an investment like that. And then finally, we are going to touch on the extra materials, 3710. I have 3 requests and I'm going to fulfill them. So first of all, the gecko. It's been a while since we've checked on the gecko. So let's take a look at that chart. Whoa, all right. Big increase in volume here, despite the very low prices. This was probably due to the time that geckos were actually dropping in one of the events. Now we are below 40 million as a bottom, and we are finally starting to go back up here. So if you purchased at 40 million, you're currently already able to sell them at 54 million. Definitely not bad. Availability seems decent to very good actually. But yeah, geckos have been going up in the last month or so quite substantially. So is this a bottom? Yes. That is, it's pretty obvious a bottom, but this is going to be a long-term bottom. Well, as long as CCP doesn't bring new geckos into the game, which are no blueprints and stuff like that available of these drones, then this could be a very good time to invest in geckos, because then they can only go up as they are being destroyed throughout gameplay. So yeah, very interesting suggestion. Of course, the gecko is a very unique item in that respect. It's considered the best drone to have, but once you have enough bandwidth to use it. This decrease in price, of course, has also been sparked by carriers no longer being able to use the drones just in general, and so demand for them dropped quite a lot. Supply went up quite substantially as well, but this is an item that is quite unique in the sense that you cannot produce more geckos in the game at the moment, and so every gecko lost is basically a gecko that cannot be traded anymore. And as a result, a lot of people do like this as an investment for the longer term, because only if CCP actually does something to bring more geckos into the game,
can this actually be, can the supply, the actual existence of these drones increase? And we may see the start of that effect right here, may be correctly called by whoever it was that suggested the geckos, because we are going back up in price after reaching a bottom below 40 million. The next suggestion was for the Ortrus. So Ortrus, I bought one and I'm enjoying doing some exploration in the Ortrus. Let's take a look at the price here. We're actually pretty close to a 6-month low, so I must have purchased below 200 million, definitely. That just means that the Ortrus is pretty affordable at the moment. If I go for a 1-year chart, could be pretty interesting. You can see that you had to pay almost 300 million for a very long time for the Ortrus, because it is a faction, a pirate faction cruiser, but it is from the Mordus Legion, and that was actually introduced not that long ago, more than a year, sure, but the way of getting the blueprint copies was through a special rat in lowsec, and so it took quite a while for this ship to become very available enough to be like affordable. So 190 million here for an Ortrus is pretty much the price that I paid for it, and I'm enjoying it very much in some exploration against the Sasha at the moment. Not the best match, let's be honest, because it is a shield tank ship, but it's doing its job, and I'm enjoying flying the Ortrus. It also looks extremely cool, so if you haven't flown an Ortrus here, it's definitely a fun experience, a very good looking ship that is actually in an affordable region at the moment at 190 million. And then the final suggestion was for the Vigilant. There we go. Let's take a look at this one. Again, pirate faction cruiser, starts the 6 months ago at around 220 million and is currently selling for 180. A bit of volatility at the end here on increased volumes. That is pretty interesting. So currently selling for 194 million, 183 for the buyers. That is pretty interesting in the sense that it's a bit more than the Ortrus. And so Vigilant is a classical pirate faction cruiser that has always been decently available in the same manner for much longer than the Ortrus, and so it does show that the Ortrus has become affordable as a cruiser. You used to have to pay 300 million for that. For the Ortrus, now you pay exactly or pretty much the same as another pirate faction cruiser. In fact, I think now I'm just curious, I'm going to check them all out. Faction cruisers, pirate faction, let's also touch on the Ashimo, currently selling for 110 million. Of course, the Ashimo is not exactly considered to be a good ship, so I think that's why it goes for a much lower price. The Cinnabal though is considered a good price. Ooh, 110 million for the Cinnabal. That is interesting. Clearly a 6-month low as well. So this is interesting. I'm actually considering buying some Cinnabals for either use or on a speculative move here, because 110 million for these are pretty damn good ships, cool looking as well. Angel Cartel, so presumably with some Jove tech. Alright, you know what I'm gonna buy next? A Cinnabal, not something you want to use against Sasha because it is turret based, but it just looks so cool that this may actually be the ship that I'll fly, that I'll try to fly if there are some good events to do during the Shadow of the Serpent. Yeah, I'm gonna at least buy one Cinnabal, maybe even a couple as an investment here. The Ortrus, we saw that 190 million, which actually is a good price for an Ortrus. Here is the Phantasm next, selling for 130 million. So this is the Sasha one. I purchased one of these as well, probably around here, so at a good time. Next up here we've got the Stratios going down to 200 million. Look at that, Stratios is costing more than an Ortrus. Honestly, having flown both ships, of course the Stratios is covered up capable, but when it comes to the sheer damage output, I think the Ortrus is a better choice. So yeah, the Stratios costing more than the Ortrus is a bit of a surprise to me, but 200 million also clearly at a 6-month low. Next up here we got the Gila, which is going for 210 million. Of course, the Gila, I think probably the most powerful pirate faction cruiser because of its special drone bonus and missile combination for PvE. It's either, I think, Gila or God damn it, now I can't the ship that I fly mostly, and now I'm having problem finding the name. God damn it! Or the Ishtar. So if you want to do some exploration, especially in Highsec for the 4 out of 10s, it's either the Ishtar that's going to get you through anything in a breeze without any trouble, or it is the Gila, which is just extremely powerful for that as well. So here we go. Gila going for 210 million, under pressure a little bit, but the only one that's actually at a pretty high price on the 6-month chart here. And then finally also the Vigilant that went down to 175 million, going up a little bit, but you can also see that the 6-month trend has been lower. So thank you very much for the suggestion, right? The Gecko going up in price may actually show a potential investment opportunity if CCP doesn't intervene in there for a few months or so. And then the pirate faction ships here, very interesting. A lot of them under pressure. I personally really like the Cinnabal chart here if you want to purchase some stuff. But the trend has been under pressure for 6 months, except for what I personally consider to be the best one amongst here, the most powerful one amongst these ships, the Gila, that is still at a high price point. So that's going to be it for this Eve Talk then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.